Hello, I'm Nelson Liu and thanks for joining us for Western Perspective. 2019 has seen the highs and lows in politics, but economy-wise it's been a completely different story. Australia's economy has been uninspired in 2019, but with 2020 around the corner, it could be a completely different story. In part 2 of our series, I talked to financial planner and Curtin University instructor Elson Goh about what he thought about the economy this year and youth financial prospects in 2020. Elson Goh, thanks for your time. So this year in politics, it's been very exciting and tumultuous, but when it comes to the economy, it's been very boring, hasn't it?
Yeah, you can see that this financial year has been fairly uneventful, which is a good thing for in terms of the financial markets, because the fact that when there's consistency, you find that it's a little bit more predictable.
So what's going to be predictable in 2020?
I think you can see that a few things could possibly happen. The cash rate is at the moment very low, 0.75%. This could be either lower again, or if the economy does pick up, the cash rate might be increased. This means that people who have got money in term deposits or cash in the bank may possibly be looking at slightly higher interest rates towards the middle or the end of 2020.
What's your advice for young people who want to get a job, buy a house and get ahead in life?
I think you can see that interest rates at the inflation rate at the moment is fairly low. So we're sitting at about 1.8%. This means that the cost of buying things is not very high. Young people should be thinking about putting aside as much as they can to make use of this low inflation environment to get ahead. Certainly you can see that some of the more enticing things, like for example equities, the All Ords have at the start of the year started at about 5,007. It's currently at 6,008. I think young people should be wary about putting money in equities, simply because the fact that with the potential of interest rates going up, the asset prices will probably come down, thereby reducing the equity prices. So therefore, they should start making use of the opportunity to put money aside, but potentially avoid the higher yielding equities market.
So are you saying that young people shouldn't buy stocks in this year?
Well, if they are saving up for, like for example, a deposit for their home, I think they should possibly take a more conservative view rather than putting in or buying into the equities market, which is at the moment very expensive. The equities market is suitable for people with a longer term view, and if you do have that longer term view and you've got money tucked away that you are happy to invest, there can be a place in your portfolio.
So what about young people who want to get a job?
I think the job market is going to be going forward even more uncertain, which is possibly a good time for people to consider going back to improve or increase their skills, possibly taking additional education. This will certainly help prepare them and position them in a better spot when the economy picks up.
If you look back to our reports about youth unemployment, and particularly with things in WA's economy not performing as well, many young people are still struggling, aren't they?
Well, I think when you look at the economy as a whole, one of the factors or one of the biggest spenders is when people purchase a home. And you can see that property prices have been coming down since 2017. Although the last quarter we've had a slight increase. Now, this might not mean that we have bottomed out, we don't know, but it's certainly evidence that the lower interest rates and the fact that government has implemented a few incentives to bolster the market has certainly had some impact. When the property market were to improve, you'll find that spending would probably go up, and thereby creating more cash flow in the economy, and businesses would probably be in a better position to hire.
With the government recently bringing in new tax cuts, there are reports that people aren't spending, they're saving the money. Are you confident that WA youths will get more jobs next year?
The tax cuts represents a fairly small amount of money that would be in the hands of taxpayers. However, this amount, there's very little incentive to to go out and make huge purchases unless, and like I said again, property is probably one of the biggest drivers of the economy. When people buy a house, you think about the fact that they have to buy furniture, they have to engage in trades, they have to make some renovations. Now this is where you find that the large capital expense is going to be done by homeowners and businesses, and therefore one of the big driving forces that we can see in order to bolster the economy is probably the improvement or the uptick of the property market.
What can be done in WA to improve young people's jobs prospects?
I think the state government has already announced a few initiatives in terms of local spending, and certainly this will probably help in creating jobs and providing that form of cash flow to the economy. Apart from that, like I said, there are many factors involved in terms of the business cycle that we're in, but most certainly all we can do is hope that for 2020 and we can start the decade slightly strong if there can be more cash flow going in the economy.
And finally, what's your final advice today for young people?
I think the best takeaway that we can have is that in a constant or stable market, we're not having a lot of growth, but we've not had any recession, and it's still a constant chugging along. This is the best opportunity to put aside some money and make sure that you start the new decade strong.
Elson Goh, thanks for your time.
Happy New Year to you as well.
And that's all we have for this week. We complete our 2019 in review next week with part 3 of our series. Until then, it's back to you, Ivan and Danny.
Thanks, Nelson. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have all the latest news on our website and social media pages.
Please join us next week for our final bulletin for 2019. Until we see you then, have a good night.
Good night.